I don't want any of my cops to be heroes. This is a sad thing that I want them to survive. He has a third child on the way. That child needs his father. He was sent to a slaughter. He was sent to a slaughter because he wasn't given proper information. He wasn't properly trained, and we're sending our police officers to die. I said it 3 years ago, John. Did I not? I said this phenomenon of police officers being assaulted because they're meek, timid, and docile, they're not getting their training. There's a police officer is going to die by the hands of another without a firearm. And here now, and also active shooter. We have an active shooter situation where a police officer was slaughtered. And instead, we don't talk about all these steps that were missing, all these missing links. And it's just easy just to call him a hero. And there's a wife at home right now who's saying to herself, how did this happen? She lost her husband. Her children lost their father. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a son. And for the police department, he's just some hero that they could politicize, the media could politicize, and stand on their soapboxes. And yet, when it's all said and done, and they're on to their next thing, there's a woman at home with two children that have to remember this forever.
I agree with you. I said it yesterday privately. I'm going to say it publicly, and I don't care if people get mad at me. Police Officer Islam isn't a hero. He's a hero because he signed up to do a job, to do it for unthankful people, and put his faith in the hands of men like Eric Adams and John Schell and Kaz Daughtry to go out there and train him properly and do the job of a police officer. But he was used as a sacrificial lamb. That's what he is. He was used as a sacrificial lamb by this mayor and by everybody else that's toting this. God forbid Mondani gets in there. It's disgusting. Honestly, it honestly boils my blood. This guy lowered the overall headcount of the NYPD. He put police officers in the NYPD that have no business being police officers. They have no business wearing body armor. They have no business with a gun on them. They have no business responding to anyone that calls 911 and needs help. Like I said 1,000 times, if I called 911 and about 80% of these people showed up, I would never call 911 again. They're untrained, they're underprepared, and they're unstaffed. The people that are there, the warriors that are there, the people that will do the job, the people that were trained properly, or the people that have the right mindset, they're completely marginalized in the New York City Police Department. Completely, utterly, totally emasculated, marginalized. Totally, all of them. And we take in people that shouldn't do the job. I'm sorry. I'm watching the ESU thing, and I see fat, roly-poly girls in the emergency service unit. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Let's talk about that, right? John, you and I have been talking about this for several days now, and it pains me to say, but it's the truth. We watched front and center on stage the NYPD police officers responding to this active shooter. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm proud that they had the fortitude and the desire to run into danger. But what did we see? It looked unorganized and it looked like total chaos. And we lost that ability to look like professionals. Honestly, it looked like amateur hour to me. At some point, we see several uniformed police officers with a suspect in handcuffs. And we didn't see total control. We didn't see anyone take control and devise a plan. Okay, we have 10 police officers. You go to this location. We have a suspect in custody. Unrelated to this case, we'll have 2 police officers bring that suspect back to the precinct. But we saw about 30 police officers running with no organized plan, not communicate with each other. No one took the lead. No one took control while running with this suspect. It was the most ridiculous thing. And I'm sorry to say, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but it's true. And it's unfortunate. It takes extreme amount of discipline to understand. And it's great that everyone wants to go to a location to help, but sometimes that doesn't help. That actually is counterintuitive. And sometimes we need to take a step back and wait a minute. What is our plan? What location are we going to? Where are we headed? Who's going? We have a suspect. We have to bring the suspect back to the precinct. We also have the responsibility to keep the suspect safe. That was the most ridiculous thing. Running around with a suspect, I couldn't believe what I saw. We saw people out of shape. We saw people that look completely confused. Now, that is why it's so important. Train, train, train. Because the more you're pressure tested, the ability to keep your anxiety levels down and also to devise a plan and maintain control is imperative. But that only comes through training. You have to train. Without training, it's not going to come natural. And that's what we saw. And exactly that. We saw ESU members out of shape. Now, the ESU men and women that I know, that I worked with, were the best of the best when it comes to cops, and they were fantastic. And most of them trained in some apparatus, whether it was martial arts, whether it was working in the gym. But you have to train your body and train your mind. We need both aspects of it. But running with a suspect and no control, and no one's taking any leadership.
Yeah, he was zero leadership, zero control. There was a sergeant on the scene. She didn't know what the hell she was doing either. Nobody knew. There was no direction. There was zero direction for the patrol guys. Counterterrorism Bureau? Absolutely. They went in there, ESU, CRC, the SRG. They went in there. They knew what to do. They're slightly trained. They're undertrained. They're underprepared. They're understaffed. But they looked like there was a mission. They were goal-orientated. They knew what to do. The patrol guys, completely unprepared, completely unready. There was zero leadership. Zero. But don't worry, because Eric Adams and Kaz Daughtry were making videos to get you to vote for them or to build their own persona of while they're driving here.
I mean, look at this video. It's just there's cops running all over the place. No one's trying to devise a plan. We don't know if there's potential other active shooters. And John, I agree with you. If people are obstructing and impeding the NYPD from doing their job, yes, put them in handcuffs. But how about we devise a plan? How about we get a van, a prison van, and pick up these suspects so that the cops can continue to do their job rather than run around with the suspect and put their life in jeopardy. God forbid that suspect has some heart condition and dies from you running them around while they're handcuffed behind their back. That was absolutely ridiculous.
No, yeah. I'm sure the sergeant here, I'm sure that's his driver right there, right? Like, because, you need sergeants to drive you, especially when they're blonde, right? It's a joke, man. Like, I take it back. I don't even think that's McCarthy, but who cares? Whatever it is, this is disgraceful, honestly. Where are you running to? What are you doing? Like, what's happening here? Like, what's the plan here that all these guys are running? How about bring her in a location or secure her on the street and get an RMP and get her the hell out of there? Now, look, they run to one spot. They run back to another spot. Like, what is happening? What is this? Does this look normal to anybody? I get it. It's controlled chaos, but there's not a better use for all of these police officers right now than securing one idiot female who now she's detained as a suspect at this point. And by the way, it is what it is. She's already going to win a big lawsuit. But you're right, Eric. You're dragging her all over the place for what? Look, they're running with her again. What is happening, dude? What is happening?
Every time I see that video now of them running around with the female suspect, I want to play that Benny Hill music, because that's all I see. I mean, it just looks insane. That to me looks like a comedy skit. Yes. Is it chaos? You have an active shooter? Yes. But that's why you have to be trained. We need training. Leroy Jenkins, brother, the cops need training. We have to speak out about it. The cops need more training. There has to be a day in the week or several days in a month that are put aside just for training, because without training, that's the byproduct. You have to be constantly pressure tested. You need to train so that you can survive and think clearly in these hostile environments. That's why in boot camp in the military, they scream, they yell, and you work in situations like that and train so that your anxiety levels are lowered and that you can think clearly in a hostile environment. That's the difference between the military and the police department. The military trains something over and over. I've had plenty of people in the Marine Corps that do not have the same level of intelligence as many cops I've worked in, but they were so effective is because they train train, and they do it over and over and over. And repetition is key. That's what training is. Training is just that. It's repetition. Doing something one time a year is just not enough. You have to do it till it becomes in your neural pathways. And we need more training. Hopefully, the NYPD, we know they're watching this podcast. Hopefully, they listen and get the cops more training. But this idea of training is selective and it's a secret squirrel society, and some cops get it and some don't, that is bullshit. Everyone should get training. We should want all our cops to be as most qualified. Because if you really care about their life, you would put them in a position so that they could survive, so that they could actually help others. How can you help others if you're not trained yourself? How can you help others if it's just complete chaos? The cops running around with a suspect, to me, that's a clear indication that there's no mission right now and there's no leadership.
100%, dude. And so I just brought up this tweet. So this was a tweet that I did on September 19th, 2023, right? September 19th, 2023, days before the October 7th attack, right? I personally believe if it wasn't for that attack, and if it wasn't for this tweet, and if it wasn't for all the tweets and all the stuff that we were saying that time on this podcast and putting out there in the media, CRC would have been disbanded. So I said the NYPD's Critical Response Command, also known as the CRC, is one of New York City's first line of defense against terrorist-related attacks. According to sources, they are being told they will be downsized by as much as 75%. So after I put this out, on September 23rd, I believe, the New York Post writes an article on this. And that's the only reason the CRC remains today. So, but what's currently happening in the CRC is, so, obviously the job was pissed off. The chief was forced out of his career for saying anything and letting his guys know what was going to happen. So, but what we were saying at that time is, not what we were saying, but what happened as a result, instead of disbanding CRC outright and removing seven, because we don't need those guys that are just involved in counterterrorism. You don't need ESU cops that are able to that are able to do a pull-up or a push-up or run a mile. You don't need cops that are able to even walk up the stairs. You don't need any of those people, and we don't need counterterrorism guys just standing around. So what they did is they went back to Adams' 2021 campaign model, which is we're going to defund through attrition. We're going to lower the head count through attrition as people get promoted, as people get retired, as people move out. We're not replacing them. And so that's currently what's happening. CRC started with around 500 guys. They're about almost 1/5 of that. By the end of this year, they'll be about 1/5 of that, right? And what are those 100 and something guys that are left over doing? Not their job. They're going to mobile field force. They're standing around like light bulbs. They're not using soft targets, standing around there. They were receiving training days. Obviously, ESU guys, CRC, SRG should receive more unique training and receive a lot of training around their functions throughout the year. I hear they're not even getting 1 day of training a year, barely.
Even in our moments of greatest despair, we can take comfort in one thing that we do know. If Jannah is reward for a righteous life well lived, then Didar Islam surely awaits his loved ones in eternal paradise. May God bless him. May God bless his family. May God bless the New York City Police Department. And may Detective First Grade Didarul Islam's memory be an eternal blessing.
You've just watched a clip from our live episode. Click the description to watch the full episode. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this.